Hi, this is Lawyers, Guns and Money on the Thaiger. Thank you very much for joining me, Tim Newton. And we've also got Ben Hart from Integrity Legal. We've got a link to Ben's website under this particular video. Now, we've got an interesting one today, and this is one that some of our viewers asked us to address. And, well, the headline is prostitution.
Right.
So I suppose I'm going to start by asking the main question. Is prostitution legal in Thailand?
It's a very simple question with a very elaborate answer.
Okay.
Let me go ahead and preface everything I'm going to say.
I'll go and do the washing while you...
Yeah. Let me go ahead and preface everything here by saying I am actually a licensed American attorney. My background is in the common law. I have a Juris Doctorate. But I have been in Thailand for almost 15 years now. I'm the managing director of our firm. I am a Thai citizen, but I am not a Thai attorney. I work with Thai attorneys all the time, and I have been involved in multiple cases, including U.S. immigration matters, involving prostitution to one degree or another. And
juicy.
Yeah, not so much, actually. You'd be surprised.
Oh, okay.
It's relatively boring stuff. In one specific case, I dealt with quite an accomplished attorney here in drafting up an English language legal opinion regarding the status of prostitution here in Thailand. And so let me start by saying, extremely nuanced here. Understand what we're saying here is for informational purposes only. Do not rely on this, and do not rely on this in any practical sense. The circumstances of any case or any arrest or any proceeding are going to be based on the specific facts of a given case. But to understand, there seems to be, and I think most people kind of understand that there's this ongoing cognitive dissonance in Thailand with respect to this issue. So let's start with the fact that, yes, prostitution is illegal in Thailand. Now, there is some nuance in how they define prostitution under the relevant Thai law on this. Most notably, there is what we describe sort of in our firm, and we have described in opinions in the past, Thai attorneys have described, and we've sort of parsed it out in the English language. There's a promiscuity element, and there's a nuisance element. So with respect to like solicitation and pandering, acting, operating as a prostitute, whatever, yes, again, it's clearly illegal. But it states, if you actually read the elements, in a promiscuous manner is a very key part of that. And I think the policy thinking behind the law is that what people do as consenting adults behind closed doors is not something the government really wants to be involved in. Now, from a public policy standpoint at the same time, they don't want to be encouraging lascivious, lewd behavior, out in the world, but they're not, again, going to be, the authorities are not looking to focus any time and energy on going after, again, what happens behind closed doors amongst consenting adults.
So, Ben, let's go through sort of some of that cognitive dissonance you were mentioning, and a lot of red light districts in Thailand operate in sort of as legal bars.
It's very nebulous. Very nebulous, yes.
But clearly some of the people working at those bars and some of the services that they are offering, whether it is clearly stated or not, could be described as prostitution.
It depends. Again, you got to apply the facts as they are to the law. And sometimes, again, this promiscuity or nuisance element to me is what is key. Because if the police, and remember, in Thailand, the police are usually the initial and primary fact finders. So if they determine, just walking down the street through a so-called red light area or something, that, hey, that is a really blatant, flamboyant violation of what we view as being the law on prostitution, you're in real trouble.
What about the actual passing over of money for services? I mean, is that something that's going to be used in the court case?
Could be. And again, it really fundamentally comes down to, I hesitate to, say, well, if the referee doesn't see it, was there a foul? That's not exactly how it works.
There's not likely to be a receipt or an invoice.
Right. No. So the more to the point, again, it comes down to this promiscuity element. As a public policy matter, I don't believe the Thai government nor Thai law enforcement agencies want to be getting into the business of what's going on behind closed doors between consenting adults. What I think is very much at issue for those folks is, hey, how does this reflect on the overall neighborhood? How does this reflect on the country? And more importantly, just as a practical matter, if I'm walking around and I'm a police officer and I can clearly see flagrant sort of advertising of prostitution or something like this, well, that's going to be a problem. But if I don't see it, then it's not promiscuous, and therefore it would not meet all the elements of prostitution.
And some people may even suggest that there could be some form of payment made to local constabulary to turn a blind eye.
I can't speak to that. It's actually been my experience that there are these rumors, especially amongst the Farang community, that sort of thing is just common practice. Actually, in my experience, I found that it's kind of the opposite.
There's also, I think, the annual parade, and they certainly have this in places like Pattaya Walking Street and in Phuket on Bangla Road, where the local police and the governor sometimes and some officials go wandering down the street. They invite all the media. Mm-hmm. They're all dressed up in their uniforms, and they proudly stop at the end of the street saying, "We're glad to report that there's absolutely no prostitution here." And it's an annual giggle for us because we know, well, however you want to paint it, if it walks like a duck, if it talks like a duck, if it smells like a duck, it's probably a duck. I did say duck, by the way.
Right.
So
I would say to that I think they're legally correct in their assessment.
Okay. All right. So it is a very nuanced topic, but essentially, I suppose the key question is that prostitution is technically illegal, but I suppose the other question I'd be asking Ben Hart from Integrity Legal is, if I get arrested over some matter related to prostitution, what should I do?
Call your lawyer immediately.
Call your lawyer.
But the major thing here is, and here again, what you need to be aware of, as they say, discretion is the better part of valor sometimes. If something, as you say, walks like a duck and talks like a duck, if it's very flamboyant or very promiscuous, or very in your face, that might be something to steer a little bit away from. But if it's something that's more low key, or if you are making arrangements behind closed doors, and I'm not advocating anything, but let's say in the hypothetical that were to occur, I don't really see, legally speaking, how that would be a problem in Thailand.
So the other thing to look at from a labour relations point of view is, would it be better for prostitution to be made legal in Thailand? There's some 30,000 prostitutes working in Pattaya alone. And these people, when COVID hits or some other hit on the tourist industry, they don't have anything to fall back on. They've got no legal rights. They've got no termination payments. So would it be a future for Thailand to have legal prostitution?
I think from our standpoint, Westerners tend to like legal clarity,
yes.
But in the Thai legal system with respect to this, it's actually pretty clear. It's just very nuanced. Now, what would I think would be a good idea? I think maybe it might be time to revisit the overall issue. I think the last legislation we saw on this was from the late 60s. One of the Entertainment Practices Acts, I think, covered certain things involving special entertainment services, etc.
Special entertainment services, nice.
Right.
Okay.
It may be time to sort of revisit some of these topics and maybe possibly rehash some of the legislation in order to regularize those folks' status a little bit more.
Yeah.
Because as you said, when this really unprecedented and unforeseen event occurred and we just sort of saw everything all at once shut down, a lot of people, unfortunately, throughout the cash economy ended up in a really bad position.
Yeah. All right, interesting topic, and thank you for shedding a bit of light on the nuance of the situation. Ben Hart from Integrity Legal, and we've got a link under the this particular description for the video. So that is Lawyers, Guns and Money for another day. We've got a whole series of these with Ben Hart from Integrity Legal, but from all of us here at the Thaiger, thanks for watching. See you next time.